Hi everyone, I'm back with another tutorial. This one that I'm going to be showing you guys today is meant to help you out with recreating the Tattle command used on the world map. You know, like one you see in games like Paper Mario. So let me just sort of show off how, I don't need to dash around like that. Let me just sort of show off how it works. So I press a button and it's just sort of like, okay, main character starts commenting on the state of the world map in general. And they're like, why is there nothing to do? I'm just like, this is just a tutorial. But if you get up close to this NPC and you press that same button, they start commenting on who the NPC is. Like, wonder who that lady is. Looks awfully deformed. Why is her head so big? Thanks to follow the RTP. The RTP, what are you talking about? Oh, forget I said anything. So that's what the general setup of what I'm going to teach you today is going to do. So if you're interested, stick around. So first things first you're going to want to do is I'm going to show off a really useful common event. It's called the game manager. If you don't have something like this set up in your project, I highly recommend creating one because you can just store a lot of useful information in there. You'll see that I have the trigger is set to parallel and I have it go on a switch that's just basically like, oh, have you started the game? Which as soon as the player loads up the game, this can just be continually running in the background. So I guess you don't technically need this switch, but I think it's helpful to have in there. So you can see a list of some of the different variables I have. So you'll see that I have player coordinates X, checks the coordinates of the player, Y, player coordinates Y, like the Y position. Then you have player region ID, which just checks if the player's in a specific region. You'll notice that this one's a little bit different because it says get location info. But I also track like player direction, size of the map, is it like the width and height, which map are you on, and then there's just some miscellaneous stuff like gold and steps if you want to make it like Final Fantasy VI. But for this example, the ones you'll absolutely need to have are player region ID. So you'll see that I'm calling get location info, and if I open this up, this is how I've got it set up. So I'm just having it so it saves to a specific variable. I've decided to call it player region ID. You can choose it to be whatever you want. You want to call a specific info type. You'll see they've got like a list of different things here. I've got it so it's just checking region ID. And then you can set up a designation by a character. So I have it set up so that it is checking basically where the player is located. And then the other one that's going to be really helpful is map ID. So to set up this one, you'll see that I'm just storing it in a variable. You click on game data, and you'll see that this thing pops up. There's a list of all these different things you can look at. If you go to other, map ID is the top one up here. So you just click that and you click OK. And if you put this and you set it up like this, it'll always be tracking in the background to see like where's the player region ID and where's the map ID. And the last thing you want to do is to set up like a command basically for having the Tattle to run. So I chose it so that whenever the page up button is being pressed, like the Tattle command can be run. You can set it up to be whatever button you want. It doesn't particularly matter. But yeah, when that button's pressed, a common event for tattling on the map will pop up. So this is the common event I have for tattling on the map. You'll see that the first thing is I check to see what map IDs the player is on. So that's how you can get it so that these tattles will change based on maps. So yeah, so you'll see I have it like map ID equal to 1, like map ID equal to 6. And you're wondering where you get that number value from. If you look right down here, you'll see it says like number 6. That's how you know. And the next thing I check is player region ID. So if I go back to looking at this, so if you're not familiar with region IDs, they're incredibly useful. So if you go over to map, you go over to R, you have like this region thing. So you'll see that surrounding this NPC, I've just put a bunch of numbers. And I put a bunch of 3s. You can choose whatever region ID number you want. It doesn't need to be 3. But by doing that, go back to the common event, it's going to check to see like, is the player region ID number 3? If it is number 3, what the Tattle is going to say is going to change because we're standing right next to the NPC. So you'll see it goes through this whole line of dialogue that I showed off. And then if you're not next to that region ID, it's just going to run a general, okay, just comment on in general on the map. And you can also change this so that it's like, oh, if you're in a specific like part of the story, you can have the players like give different commentary. You can check like, oh, if there's a different person in your party. You can get pretty creative with it. You don't have to do it just based on region IDs, but that's the most convenient one for trying to get it to set up to like doing it like the Paper Mario games. But yeah, that's all there is to getting this to work. Hope you found this tutorial helpful, and be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more of these. Thanks everyone, have a good day.